Hey, Hat Tricks fans, the Danbury Hat Tricks are back at the Danbury Ice Arena preparing for 2 more games this weekend before the holiday break. With Matt Voity, Wyatt Kopelman here inside the Hat Tricks Lounge for the 9th installment of Hat Tricks Weekly. Matt, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Wyatt.
Now, you're coming off a big win on Friday, or rather on Saturday, in which the Hudson Valley Venom, they gave you a challenge with 2 power play goals late from Dylan Justo, but your team got 5 goals, 4 of them were unanswered. What excited you most about the way that your team executed?
I think the response from Friday night, I think, we've done this a little bit all year. I think while it was a big win, I think it was really, last week it needed to be 2 wins. It's good to see that response, but we don't really want to have to call that a response. We want to call that another win, especially with the team below us in the standings.
Going into this week in practice, how do you believe the energy has translated from that win on Saturday as you prepare for 2 big games this weekend?
I mean, it's been good. I think we've had a pretty good week of practice. I think we're prepared. I think one of the learning points that we have to pick up here pretty fast is, we can't come out casual. We can't come out kind of waiting to see what happens. We have to come out and take it to them and go and take what we want. Once we start to do that consistently, and obviously, we're human beings, they're human beings. We're not always going to hit it right every time, but we need to be much more consistent with that and not vary from that high level that we came out with on Saturday night. We need to be more consistent with that game to game.
And you mentioned the importance of not coming out too casual and getting on the board in the first period specifically. Connor Woolley broke the standoff on Saturday in the second period. How exciting is it to see someone who's experienced, has the skating numbers similar to last year, set the tone for that scoring?
I'm sorry? Like what? Who are you talking about?
Connor Woolley.
Oh, I missed that part. I'm sorry. It's good. It's good. We have 3 lines that I kind of consider first lines. It's great to see. It's always great to see anyone chip in and contribute. I think, Woolley getting going and getting hot can be exciting for us for sure.
And then you also got a great goal from Noah Robinson as well. How do you believe he's begun to settle into his role as he's been here for nearly 10 games?
I think Robo's coming in and giving us what I want him to give us, which is kind of that power forward look and that toughness. I think he's handled things pretty well. Obviously, he's in a little bit of a weird situation as a 10th forward at times. I think as he gets more ice time, he'll be even better.
Penalty kill has still been a bit of a concern for this team. As you have a week to regroup, I guess not entirely a week, but definitely a certain number of days before going on to face Motor City this Friday, what do you believe can be done in such a short period of time to at least begin to adjust that concern?
I think it's really small adjustments, small details. I don't, I think it's talking about them, working through them, putting some reps on them. I think that's really what it is. And obviously some of it's, being smart to the team that we're playing. Every team, I think, has their own little wrinkle on the power play, and we have to be aware of that and a little more dialed in on it. I think sometimes with our PK, we've had a lead or we're going well, and we kind of just, again, kind of back to that mindset and that mentality of being a little too casual. And I think we have to understand, when it comes to specialty teams, those are momentum shifts or shifters, and we really have to own that 2 minutes, whether we're up or whether we're down, to really get what we want, which is a win.
And then you also had a multi-goal lead going into the third period before Hudson Valley got those 2 goals in the third. How much do you believe your team is absorbing the message in the locker room before you get back on the ice in between periods?
I think they absorb it. I think, those 2 goals, came in the middle to late part of the period. I think we're just a little too casual. I think we're too quick to get there. I think we want to kind of cruise, and I think we have to understand that, even in a game like that, it's 5-1. Finishing at 5-1, or more than 5-1, but keeping them at 1 and finishing it that way is important, and it plays into our habits, especially later in the year when teams are going to die hard. It's not easy to finish someone's season.
So now that you've won 6 games over the last few weeks, and it was the team's first home win since beating Binghamton at home 7-4 in the final week of November, how do you believe your team has begun to improve collectively aside from the concern of the penalty kill since the beginning of the season?
I think we're maturing. What we've talked about in this interview with the mentality, I think some of that is young guys. We have some really young guys. Some guys who are new to pro hockey, and that's part of the growing pains. I think it's definitely getting better. I think guys are understanding how we start is important. I think now we're kind of managing the ebbs and flows of the game, and the momentum shifts of the game. I think we're meshing really well. We still have some new faces coming in. We added some new D here, but it's coming together. The boys in the room are pretty connected. They do a lot together. They're very supportive of each other. So it's coming together, maybe just not as fast as some of us would like.
And how much going into this weekend is the message centered around not being too casual in the midst of periods? Of course, also being explosive out of the starts. And then, as you said, also the maturity aspect in knowing what it takes to win for 60 minutes.
Well, that's really the focus. I mean, it's the first couple shifts. I think, if you look at our games, you can tell whether or not we're going to have a good game or not. In terms of the PK, or those PK moments, power play moments, we've been through that. I think it's just more our own self-talk as players, whether just in our own minds or whether to our teammates on the bench in that moment. I think that is actually progressing. I think I've seen that get better and better. I think when we're up, I think we just have to be much more vigilant and not assume that a team's just going to go away, because no team, it's pro hockey, no team's going to go away.
Now, going into this weekend, you also have a great deal of scoring. You have newcomers as well, not to mention the 5 goals that you've gotten over the past 6 games, I believe. Matt Peterson, is a big name that comes in to help out defensemen. What do you believe he can contribute in his role as he settles in with this club?
I think Matt, he's young. He's literally right out of junior. He's 21. But I think he's got good skating ability. He can make good decisions with the pucks, with the puck on a stick. I think he's smart. I think he knows how to read the play, and I think he can be steady back there. Obviously we don't necessarily. It'd be great if he can pop in a good amount of points, but I think he can be a steady piece back there for us.
When did you first realize this season that there'd be potential for him to be here and help out the defensemen, especially as you can continue to experiment with deep pairings?
Oh, well, I didn't really know until he got here. Carolina released him, and I think one of our guys knew him because he's local. I think he lives in Brantford. Then we brought him in, and I was like, all right, let's see what he can do. So, and he's done a good job. He's done a good job since he's been here, and I look forward to more. And when you realize a player's that young, it's like, all right, well, there's a lot of upside here. There's a lot of room for improvement.
And I want to go back to not only Connor Woolley and what he's done, but also with the shorthanded goals that this team has. It leads the FPHL. How vital do you think that is, especially when you also have the contributions from Woolley with his skating numbers this season to be able to go out and win games?
Well, I think the shorthanded goals, I think it's almost like, how do you factor that into your PK percentage? I kind of wish there was a way to factor that in, because it seems like a separate stat. I think if you factor that in, we're probably maybe over 80%, and it kind of controls the momentum. Anytime you can come away from a PK having scored a goal and being up 1, that's huge. I mean, that's probably a big indicator that you can win the game. I think Woolley contributing is, it's big. Like I said, I think when you look at all 3 of our lines, I mean, they're all dangerous lines. They're all could be first line for anybody in this league. And I think Woolley Woolley getting going is just makes it more dangerous, especially when you look at that line that, he's with. It's Woolley, Johnny and Chase. I mean, that's he gets going, the other two get going. It's like, who's really going to be able to skate with them?
How much pressure do you notice is taken off the Van Durken, Frolov line when you have Woolley contributing, but then also Jake Radcliffe with the assist numbers he's provided?
I think it's big. I think those guys, those three, just love to play. Like I don't know if they necessarily feel that pressure. I think they want to go out and they want to be the best line and the best. I think the best line in the league. I think the way they approach it. So I don't know if it's so much, like, oh well, they're not, they're scoring, so we're okay now. I think they want to go out and they want to score and they want to do a good job. So I think they always have that kind of I hate to say pressure. I think it's just they have high standards for themselves, and I think they try to live up to that every shift, which is great.
And speaking of high standards, Connor McCollum, he bounced back in the net again on Saturday, and familiar opponent, Hudson Valley, you played twice last weekend. What do you believe that you saw from him that can carry into future starts for him?
I think MC's getting even more dialed and I mean, like, he's made some saves that are just like how did he make that? And he made it look easy. I think he's not really pumping out too many rebounds. He's not really... There's nothing in his game where it's like, that needs to get worked on or that needs to be better. I think we need to be a little more consistent in front of him, and I think his numbers are more a reflection of us not taking care of our own end. I think he's been steady all year. I don't see anything that, where it's could be exposed. I think he's actually getting better and better.
I know we've talked a little bit about his bounce-back mentality either last week or the week before about what he's done to continuously turn in wins and a great deal of saves as well, regardless of which opponent he faces. When you were first here in the team's inception in 2019 to now, and thinking of all the goaltenders you've worked with, how special has that relationship been for you both, for you to get the chance to work with him as he led the league in wins last year?
I think, how special it is. I think it's special with every player that's come through here. I think MC's just a gamer. He's not someone that needs a lot of maintenance, whether emotionally or even in his game. He's pretty self-aware. I think he's a good leader. He's a guy I would want on any team, as a person. I would want him on any team in any league at any time. I think his game in terms of working with that, I think he's got a little bit of an X factor. He's got the technique, but he can break technique, which makes him unpredictable, which, just as it would be an asset to a forward, it's an asset to a goalie when you can be unpredictable for the opposing team.
So as the Hat-Tricks go on and try and take 6 points this weekend, Motor City and then in Watertown on the road Saturday, we'll continue the tradition as always here on Hat-Tricks Weekly. The Hat-Tricks can pick up 6 if
we manage our mental game, we come out like savages.
It's the same word you used last week, and it'll have to apply this week to get 6 and not just 3. So the Hat-Tricks, they take on not 1 but 2 opponents this weekend. It's the Motor City Rockers this Friday at 7:30 here at the Danbury Ice Arena, and then in Watertown on Saturday. Matt, thanks for your time as always.
Thanks, Wyatt.